Odysseus and the child Scylla left behind. Chapter 1. The Seventh Cry. When the seventh cry came from beneath the ship, no man dared to speak first. They had counted. Scylla had taken 6. 6 men, not 7. Dawn had not yet broken. The sea was black, like bronze left too long in a fire. A corner of the sail hung torn and wet. Ropes clung to the mast like dead snakes. Every living man sat at his bench with his hands wrapped around an oar, but no one was rowing. No one wanted to look back. Behind them, the strait still gaped open. The cliffs rose so high their tops disappeared into darkness. Caves hid in the stone, and from those caves, only moments ago, Scylla had lowered 6 long necks like cold ropes from the rock, and snatched 6 sailors into the air. Those men had not even had time to scream properly. Odysseus stood at the stern. His hand was still on the steering oar. Salt had rubbed his knuckles white. He was not looking at his hand. He was looking at the 6 empty places on the deck. One man whispered a prayer. Another bit the back of his own hand. Another buried his face against his knees and refused to look at the water. Eurylochus sat among the rowers. A cut from the rocks had opened across his shoulder, but he had not bounded. He only watched Odysseus. His eyes did not look angry. They looked like they were waiting for an answer. One of the 6 men Scylla had taken had shared an oar with him. When the monster lifted that man into the air, his fingers were still clenched around the handle. Eurylochus had pulled the oar back. The wood had torn his palm open, but he had saved nothing. Odysseus gave him no answer, because answers did not bring dead men back. Then the cry came from under the hull. It was very small, like a newborn child dropped into cold water. Every man froze. The cry stopped. Then it came again. This time it was not a child. It was the voice of a grown man. "Captain!" The word came through the planks, blurred by water, as if someone had been sealed inside a jar beneath the ship. One rower screamed. "That is Philon!" No one argued with him. They all knew the voice. Philon had been the first man Scylla took. When she dragged him upward, the copper button on his cloak had struck the mast with a bright little sound. Now that same voice rose from beneath them. "Captain!" A second voice joined it, then a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. The 6 dead men called to him one by one. Each voice was quiet. Each voice sounded as if its owner had opened his eyes underwater. Odysseus slowly took his hand off the steering oar. "Bring a lamp." No one moved. He said it again. "Bring a lamp." This time a young sailor lit one with shaking hands. The flame leaned in the wind and showed the faces around it. Every face looked grey, as if each man had already stood in line on the banks of the underworld. Odysseus knelt and pressed his ear to the deck. The crying was directly beneath him, but there was no hold under that part of the ship, no hidden chamber, only planks, gaps, seawater, and the cold they had carried out of Scylla's strait. Eurylochus stood. "Do you hear them?" Odysseus did not answer. Eurylochus took one step closer. "They are calling you," The crying stopped. Silence pressed down on the ship. Then a child's voice whispered from below the boards. "I am cold." Only later did they understand that the sound had not been inside the ship at all. It had come from the sea itself, pressed against the hull, as if something was swimming beneath them and following the keel. Before dawn, the wind pushed them toward a reef. It rose from the water like a row of black teeth, sharp and wet, biting white foam. The men tried to steer away, but the crying grew nearer. It no longer seemed to come from the ship. It seemed to come from the reef itself. When the first line of sunlight touched the sea, they saw it. A child lay on the rocks. Half of its body was human, small, pale and thin, with eyes made bright by seawater. The other half looked like something torn from the belly of a sea monster. Dark scales covered its skin. Small tendrils dragged behind it on the stone. In its arms, it held a snapped rope. Tied to that rope was Philon's copper button. Chapter 2: The Monster Child on the Reef. The ship did not come close. No one wanted to be the first man to step onto the rocks. The child lay there like something the sea had thrown away. It did not call out. It did not move. Now and then it lifted its head and looked at them, and each time someone on the ship took a step back. Its face was too human, and not human enough. Eurylochus lifted a spear. "That is not a child." Odysseus watched the reef and said nothing. "It is bait," Eurylochus said. "Scylla spat it out for us." Several men muttered behind him. "Kill it, before it grows. Throw it back." The child seemed to understand the word kill. It hugged the rope tighter. Its shoulders began to shake. Then it cried. The sound did not come from its own throat. The first voice was Philon's. "Do not let my mother wait too long." The ship went still. A second voice spoke. "My son has never seen my face." A third said, "The coins are under my oar. Do not let them take them." With every sentence, another sailor turned pale. These were not things a monster should know. They were the small things the dead men had said while they were alive. The stray wishes spoken at night, the fears shared while rowing, the little ordinary memories too plain for heroes to remember and too small for gods to keep. But the child kept them. Odysseus stepped onto the reef. The water covered his ankles. It was cold as a hand from the underworld. He walked to the child and crouched in front of it. The child looked up. There was no hunger in its eyes, only confusion. A confusion no monster should have been able to carry. Odysseus lowered his voice. "Where did you come from?" The child opened its mouth. First came the sound of seawater, then a man's voice. "Captain, my house is on the western slope of Ithaca. There is a fig tree by the door. You promised that when we came home, I would step onto land first." Odysseus swallowed. He remembered the tree. He remembered the man saying those words one night, but he could not remember the man's name. Eurylochus saw the pause. "Say it," he called from the bow. His spear pointed at the reef. "What was his name?" Odysseus did not answer at once. The waves struck the cracks in the rock again and again, like knuckles knocking in the dark. The child tilted its head and waited. The crew waited too. At last, Odysseus spoke 3 names: Philon, Iason, Demos. Then he stopped. The other three names sat somewhere in his memory, like words washed off a stone. Eurylochus gave a short laugh. It was not really a laugh. It was a stone dropped into a well. You cannot even name them all. The child lowered its head and held the broken rope against its chest. This time it did not cry. It only asked, in the voice of a man Odysseus did not know how to name, "Then who am I?" Chapter 3. Eurylochus draws his knife. No one slept that night. The ship lay in the lee of the reef. Far behind them, Scylla's strait had faded into a black line between sea and sky. But every man aboard knew the darkness had not gone. It was waiting. They laid the child near the stern and wrapped it in a torn sail. Odysseus allowed no one near it. He sat beside it with a short sword across his knees. Now and then the child shivered. Each time a different breath came from under the sail. It sounded like 6 men crowded into one small body. At the bow, Eurylochus gathered several sailors. They kept their voices low, but the night was too quiet. Their words crawled along the planks to Odysseus. "It will bring Scylla back. It is not human. If the captain will not do it, we should." Someone asked, "What if he calls it an order?" Eurylochus was silent for a moment. Then he said, "He never told us 6 men would die." It was not a sudden mutiny. That sentence had been trapped in every living man's throat all night. Eurylochus was only the first to let it out. After he said it, the whispers died. Even the water seemed to pause. Odysseus did not turn. He had known the accusation would come. Before the strait, Circe had warned him. Both paths were death. Sail too close to Charybdis and the whole ship could be swallowed. Sail close to Scylla and 6 men would certainly die. Odysseus had chosen Scylla, and he had not told his crew. He had done more than keep silent. As they neared the cliffs, he had ordered the men to keep their eyes on the sail and not look toward the caves. He knew that if they saw the 6 necks hanging from the rock, fear would break the ship before the monster did. If he told them, terror would kill them first. The oars would lose rhythm, the ship would stall, all of them would be dragged under. He had repeated that reason in his mind many times. Each time it sounded more like wisdom. But that night, while the child slept under the torn sail with 6 dead men breathing through it, Odysseus wondered if that wisdom had simply been another kind of blade. Eurylochus walked toward him. This time he did not whisper. "You knew." The crew lifted their heads one by one. Odysseus looked at him. "Knew what?" "That Scylla would take men." Eurylochus put his hand on his knife. "That she would not let us pass for nothing. That 6 of us had to die." Odysseus did not deny it. Denial had no use left. The child opened its eyes. As if it had heard something far away, it slowly turned its face toward the strait. From that darkness came a long, low sound. Not a wave. It was like a giant throat drawing breath inside a cave. Every man heard it. Eurylochus pulled his knife free. "There," he said. "It is calling her." The child began to shake. One small hand slid out from under the sail and caught Odysseus by the cloak. The hand was too cold to belong to anything alive. Eurylochus lifted the knife. "Move." Odysseus stood. "No. For a monster. Until I know what it is." Eurylochus's eyes were red. You never needed to know what we were. You only needed to know if we could row, if we could hold a shield, if we could die for you." No one spoke. The words were too heavy. Even an answer would have sounded small. Then the child spoke. In a voice as tired as an old man's, it asked, "If it happened again, Captain, would you still choose us?" Chapter 4. 6 Men Who Never Came Home. Odysseus did not answer, not because he did not know, because he did. If it happened again, if one side meant the death of the whole ship and the other side meant 6 men, he would still steer towards Scylla. That was the most terrible part. His choice may have been right, and the 6 men were still dead. Before sunrise, the first relic floated up beside the hull. It was a copper button, Phylon's button. It touched the planks with a soft tap. Then came a second relic, a short length of red cord. Then a third, a charm blackened by seawater. 6 objects rose from below, one after another, and circled the ship. They looked like 6 eyes that refused to close. The child sat near the stern and watched them. It no longer cried. It began to speak. The first voice said, "My name is Phylon. My mother always forgets to close the sheep pen. I promised I would fix it when I came home." Odysseus repeated, "Phylon." The child grew a little quieter. The second voice said, "My name is Iason. My wife carries my child. I have never touched the child's face." Odysseus repeated, "Iason." The third voice said, "My name is Demos. The coins under the oar were not stolen. They were for red shoes for my daughter." Odysseus said, "Demos." When the fourth voice came, he stopped. It was young. "My name is Alecto. I did not like war. I sailed with you because my father said that if a man followed Odysseus, he might at least come home alive." Someone on the ship lowered his head. Odysseus held the name in his mouth like a shard of broken pottery. Alecto. The fifth voice said, "My name is Mylon. I was afraid of deep water. Every time I lowered my oar, I tried not to look down." At last, someone began to weep. Odysseus said, "Mylon." The sixth voice did not come for a long time. They waited. The breathing from the distant cave drew nearer. It sounded like the tide returning from the edge of the world. Then the child lifted its head and looked at Odysseus. This time, the sound from its mouth was not one man's voice. It was many voices layered together. "You forgot me." Odysseus's hands went cold. He saw the sixth relic drift beside the ship. It was not a weapon. It was not a charm. It was a small piece of wood. A crooked bird had been carved into it. And Odysseus remembered. The sailor had carved wood at night. He said his little son could not read yet, but he knew the shape of birds. He meant to carry that wooden bird home so the child would know his father had truly gone to Troy and truly come back across the sea. But Odysseus still could not remember his name. The child watched him. Eurylochus watched him. The whole ship watched him. Odysseus closed his eyes. He could remember many things. The turn of a wind, the line of a hidden reef, the weakness in an enemy's guard, the exact shape of a lie that would sound like truth. But he could not remember the name of a man who had rowed for him through 10 years of war. The child opened its mouth. The sixth voice said softly, "My name is Neritos." Odysseus opened his eyes. "Neritos." He said it slowly, as if passing sentence on himself. The child lowered its head at last. The 6 relics stopped circling and lay still against the side of the ship. But the sound from the caves did not stop. It was closer now. Chapter 5. Scylla turns back. Scylla's shadow came at noon. There was no sun that day. Clouds pressed low over the sea, and at first the men thought a storm was coming. Then they understood that what lay across the water was not cloud, it was shadow. The shadow stretched from the direction of the strait. First it touched the reef, then the hull, then every man's feet. The child screamed. 6 voices burst from its throat at once, tangled and terrified. "Mother! Child! Captain! Do not let her! I do not want to go back! I have not gone home!" The crew broke. One man grabbed an oar, another cut the mooring rope, another lunged for the child. Eurylochus reached it first. "Throw it over!" 2 sailors pinned the child down. The torn sail ripped away. Its scales shone wet and cold in the shadow. It did not fight. It only wept with the voices of the dead. The louder it cried, the faster the darkness came from the strait. Odysseus drew his sword and stepped between them. "Let it go!" Eurylochus shouted. "She followed it here!" "No," Odysseus said. "She followed them." Everyone froze. Odysseus looked down at the child. At last he understood. Scylla had not come because the child called her. She had come because the deaths were unfinished. Those 6 men had been taken without names, without farewell, without a place to go. To Scylla, they had not yet finished dying. They were still crying. And while they cried, she could find them. Odysseus drove his sword point into the deck. "Say their names." No one moved. He turned to Eurylochus. "If you want to live, say them." Eurylochus clenched his teeth. "Phylon." One of the child's voices stopped. Odysseus continued. "Iason." Another voice fell silent. "Demos." "Alecto." "Mylon." "Neritos." They said the names again and again. At first, only Odysseus spoke. Then an old rower joined him. Then the young man who had wanted to spear the child. At last, even Eurylochus spoke. His voice was low. "Neritos," he said. "He once held me when a wave nearly took me overboard." The child's crying grew smaller. Scylla's shadow reached the stern. The men looked up and saw, far above the rocks, 6 long necks lowering out of the dark. Scylla did not fully show herself. She was only a shape on the cliff, each neck slick as a wet pillar, each head sniffing the air, sniffing for the dead who had not yet been remembered. Odysseus kept speaking. "Phylon, Iason, Demos, Alecto, Mylon, Neritos." The child stopped shaking. It looked at Odysseus, and for the first time, It spoke in its own voice. The voice was small, like the last sound left inside a shell. What now? Odysseus did not know how to answer. Then the child's body split open. There was no blood, only 6 cold lights flew from its chest, like fireflies escaping from the deep sea. They circled the mast once, then slipped into the wood and vanished. Scylla's 6 heads opened their mouths. They did not roar. They drew in one hollow breath, the breath of a hunter who had lost the scent. Then the shadow withdrew. Chapter 6. The 7th Name. No one cheered when they left the reef. The wind filled the torn sail again, and the ship moved slowly away from the black rocks shaped like teeth. Scylla's strait fell behind them until it seemed as distant as a nightmare. One by one, the sailors returned to their benches. The oars dipped into the sea. The rhythm of water began again. The living always had to keep rowing. Eurylochus said nothing. He sat at the bow and cleaned his knife with a rag. There was no blood on it, but still he cleaned it. Odysseus stood by the mast. On the inner side of the wood, he saw 6 shallow marks. He had not carved them. No living hand had. The 6 names seemed to have grown from inside the mast. Phylon, Iason, Demos, Alecto, Mylon, Neritos. The letters were crooked, as if scratched out slowly by a child's hand. Odysseus touched them. The wood was cold, cold as if it had just been lifted from the bottom of the sea. He should have felt relief. Scylla had not caught them. The ship remained. The road remained. Ithaca still waited somewhere beyond the west. But when his fingers reached the space beneath the 6th name, he stopped. There was another mark there, very faint, new. He leaned closer. It was not the name of a dead man. It was his own. Odysseus. Black water seeped from the cut. Not ink. Seawater. For one moment, the wind passed through him as if his chest were empty. He turned toward the crew. No one had noticed. Every man was busy surviving. One mended the sail, one bailed water, another placed the 6 relics carefully into a torn bag. Only Odysseus knew. The mast had remembered a 7th name. Scylla had not spared him. She had only chosen not to take him yet. Eurylochus came up behind him. "Captain!" Odysseus lowered his hand from the mast. "West," he said. "Keep us west." His voice was steady, steady enough to sound as if nothing had happened. The sailors pulled at their oars. The prow opened the sea and turned toward home. By dusk, the water had become terribly calm. There was no wave, no wind, no cry from any seabird. The quiet felt like a mouth closed tight. Odysseus sat at the stern and listened to the oars. One stroke, another, another. And when night lowered over the water, he heard a very small cry beneath the hull. It was not 6 men. It was not the child. It was smaller than that, farther away, as if something patient waited below the planks. Odysseus did not look down. He only looked west, toward Ithaca, toward the Black Sea that led home. From that day on, whenever the water became too still, he heard the sound again. It was no longer crying for the dead. It was waiting for the next man the sea was owed. and it already knew his name.